welcome to another edition of the Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. The show was going 5 minutes before we started rolling.
I got us off track before we even got on the air. It's a new low in starts.
Norm Waymer, Marty Ben, Big John Melkowski. All right, we taped this obviously a little earlier in the week. We did not tape it today. We taped it before the NFL draft started. So we will go through the NFL draft on next week's show and pick it apart. And quite frankly, guys that are UT guys, BG guys might not be signing until after Saturday anyway. So
right. Tomorrow and Monday will be very busy days for all the free agents that don't get drafted.
I wonder how many people watch the draft now on Saturday. Because the first round was Thursday, the second round was...
Here's the thing. I know people that do, and I don't like to admit that I know them, especially when they tell me that stuff.
When I was doing the other show, I tended to do it because I got much more heavily into the draft than we do in this show.
Well, you had more time.
Well, yeah, I'd have draft experts, and we'd go through a whole bunch of things.
And when the whole thing was Saturday and Sunday, it was a lot easier to have it on in the background and be doing something between 15 minutes between picks. Now that it's Thursday and Friday and all day Saturday, and
they're actually going to have, it'll be a version of spring break if the NFL gets its way, and they'll stretch this out into like a 10-day event that will involve people getting time off work and whatever else.
One pick per night. They just have like a half hour broadcast.
Here's the one thing I can say with certainty: even in Nashville, Roger Goodell will have gotten booed.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yes.
Yeah, I think we could be safe to say that happened. But we can also safely say, I think, that at least a quarter of the first round will not pan out.
Oh, yeah.
You're being generous. I think this year's going to be higher.
I said at least.
Yes.
Even in the good years, occasionally there's a draft, like the Marino Elway draft, which was so unbelievably loaded with talent. And the Lions took James Jones, but passed on Jim Kelly.
Yeah. So here's my thought. I don't even know why anyone ever reads a mock draft. Like I have made a personal pledge that every time I see it on my feed, I will not click on any version of anybody else's because its prediction's sure to go wrong, and it's all made up. And the minute one person trades and does everything else, and one team throws it off, the whole rest of the draft you can literally just tear that prediction sheet and throw it out the window.
But somebody should grade them afterwards. Somebody should grade all the media people's mock drafts to see how good they were.
Here's the deal. If that was graded on a curve, weathermen would get A+, and draft prognosticators would still get failing grades. That's how bad it is every year.
My favorite is when somebody does a mock draft and actually mocks up a trade. Well, I think the Falcons are going to trade up into this point. It's like, why? Who knows? It's one thing to just pick, okay, if this team's picking, they should take this. And then I saw one this week. It said what teams should do. So that when he's wrong, you should just, that's what they should have done was this. But, they did that.
One of the baseball websites in the offseason, right after the season, they had a contest, see if you could guess where the free agents were going to go. And there was about 40 free agents on the list. And I kind of forgot that I did it. And I got sent it back to me the other day. I think I got 3 of them right.
I did like the Raiders sending all the scouts away, and then a day or two later you get the Gil Brandt story of how the Cowboys were planting false information back in the day to figure out who was giving away info. So, because you can't trust everybody in the room all the time. So the Raiders said, we know what we're going to do, so you can all just go home.
You can't trust anything that happens in the final 2 weeks.
Oh, no. And half the stories that come out and all the rest, garbage.
And if a team really doesn't know who they want to take by the final week, then they're idiots. Should be fired.
Correct. Yeah, if they don't have a short list of who they think will be available at that point, and I think the only tricks are when somebody drops in your lap that you didn't expect, then what do you do and how aggressively, if one spot in front of you is a player you really coveted that you didn't think would be there, what are you willing to do and mix up in it? And I think that's where the best benefits are and where the biggest mistakes are made. People aren't prepared for the stuff that they didn't see coming.
I pulled off some of the, let's say, not greatest moves on draft day of draft days past. including Charles Rogers going second overall to the Lions in 2003.
Wasn't that part of the wide receiver run
Yes,
that really
3 in a
was?
row.
The next pick was Andre Johnson.
F. I can grade that. I'm going to go ahead and put the grade on there.
Brady Quinn in 2007 by the Browns, taken 22nd overall, and they traded a first and a second to get him.
So that's like an F where you don't even show up for the class, or you show up twice and fall asleep and then don't even go to the exam.
Also taken at 22nd overall, Johnny Manziel in 2014.
Yeah, the Browns are good at that.
I could proudly say I called that one that next day.
Oh.
Trent Richardson being the number 3 pick overall.
If you want to know what Trent's doing these days, get on Pornhub.
My favorite is trading the draft pick that became Julio Jones. That's one of my favorites. The Raiders taking Robert Gallery, who may or may not have been artificially inflated.
Wow, you are really being nice tonight. May or may not. Tony Mandrich, may or may not. Brian Bosworth, yes.
The Redskins, what they traded to get RG3.
That still hurts.
Oh, yeah.
They did make up for it by taking Drew Stanley.
After bringing that up, you have to give John a hug during the break because he's going to just be sitting here sobbing.
Hey, you won Rookie of the Year.
And that was worth it, right? That one great season?
Absolutely.
The top 5 on this list, this was on a USA Today. Number 5 was Lawrence Phillips.
Another quality individual.
Yeah, that's why you take their character into somewhat of a consideration. Oh, yeah, they parted with Sean Gilbert to acquire the pick. And Eddie George was still available. Speaking of George, number 4 is Jeff George, who was first overall to the Colts in 1990.
He still has a cannon.
Yeah.
And is still a head case.
And is still probably rumored to be signing with somebody.
Correct.
Number 3, your favorite and mine, Jamarcus Russell.
It's hard to imagine him staying at 3, but continue on.
Although that was a lousy quarterback draft, but still, you had Calvin Johnson, Joe Thomas, Adrian Peterson, Patrick Willis, Marshawn Lynch, and Darrelle Revis go in the first round. Speaking of the incredible bulk, Tony Mandrich is number 2. And second overall by the Packers in '89, and he kind of stuck his thumb in his mouth and blew himself up. And number 1 overall, Chargers quarterback Ryan Leaf, taken second overall. And I will say, because the Manning was taken first, you could have talked to the two of them for 2 minutes and figured out which one you wanted to take.
Yeah, but I mean, there were a lot of people who thought Leaf was the better. Leaf had the better skills. I mean, all around. If you
had the better arm,
skills on the field, Ryan Leaf was better. Just off the field, it was a different story.
And it shows you how much it means.
With a lot of things, the most important statistic is what goes on in the space between these two, because that dictates that the rest of it won't perform at a high level for very long.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. How bad has it gotten in Detroit for sports fans? Talk about that when we come back. It's for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Mortgage Marty here. It's spring buying season's right around the corner. In fact, now is the best time to get started. Gives us a little lead time. If there's things we need to tweak, we can get on it right away. Remember, those credit inquiries don't affect your score any more than they will if you check later. So one inquiry, whether it's now and then again in the spring, still only counts as one, won't hurt your score. We helped 3 customers this week improve their score by an average of 30 points. So reach out now. Let's get that started. 419-461-0667 or marty.bin, B-I-H-N, at fairwaymc.com.
It's April Anarchy as Powerbomb Wrestling is back in action in Toledo on Sunday, April the 28th at 5 p.m. at St. Clements Hall, 2990 Tremainsville Road. See Unchained Brandon Day, The Circus of Pain, Sexy Sean Casey, Malice, The Bachelor Ben Boone, Queen Emanata, and more in action. Get your advanced discount tickets right now at pbwexcitement.com. That's pbwexcitement.com. The best wrestlers in the Midwest, Sunday, April the 28th at St. Clements Hall.
And back we are for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. Great place to stop anytime. Earlier today, lunch, dinner, later, after 9, Sunday through Thursday, half price appetizers. And great place to always catch the game. My home away from home. Ralphie's. All right. You're looking at me funny.
I know what you're going to say, and I during the break I was scrolling through some of the rosters thinking, God, it's been a long time since I gave a crap about sports in Detroit. And other than being a Cowboys fan, I'm a Tiger fan, a Piston fan, and a Red Wing fan, and the other three. And I can't tell you the last time I put the Tiger game on in the background just for background noise because I have become apathetic. Is that fair?
Well, we'll start with the Pistons because they had a legitimate chance to be the 6th seed in the East. And if they'd have gotten in a 3-6 series, they could have competed in that series. But they didn't. They lost to some people that they shouldn't have down the stretch. Ended up in a 1-8 series against Milwaukee, and we all know what happened, and we knew what was going to happen before it even happened. A big broom sweep, 4-and-out, goodbye. And now the Pistons have the record, the NBA record for the most playoff game losses consecutively. What is it, 16, 19, something like it, something ridiculous?
Too many.
That's a long time.
Congratulations, you made the playoffs. You got swept out in 4. None of the games were close, and you get a worse draft pick. You don't get in the lottery.
Yep. If you're going to be bad, be really bad. Worst place to be is right in the middle.
Welcome to being. See, I don't know how well you can rebuild in the NBA anymore. I don't think you can rebuild through the draft.
No.
I don't think it works.
No, you got to have somebody. You can sort of. You have to hit like on a Giannis Antetokounmpo, whose name I botch every time, but you have to hit on something like that, and then have people want to come play with someone who you hit on. That's the only way the draft works in your favor.
Well, and the only team that's really done it is Golden State. But Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, none of those guys were top picks. They just happened. They got the guys who, the later picks that just happened to play well together. And then they added Kevin Durant to it. Everybody else, it's always build a team. It's, LeBron goes someplace and brings 2 guys with him.
Well, Kevin Durant and then Boogie Cousins, who's hurt now.
Well, when the Pistons built their championship team there, they got Dumars later in the first round, and they got Rodman in the second round. That largely had to do with them turning that around at the time.
Well, and even their most recent teams, Ben Wallace was a trade acquisition, Rasheed Wallace was a trade acquisition. Chauncey Billups had been 14 other places before he came to Detroit.
It was like a different player when he got there.
Yeah, and Philadelphia's tried to do it in the NBA, but all these guys keep getting hurt, and in the NBA you only get a guy for the first 3 years on his rookie deal, and then you've got to sign him to the big money.
Right, and if he's a 1-and-out guy, basically you got to.
He's 21 before, and then you got to decide whether you're going to give him $40 million a year or not.
Coming off what should have been his senior year in college.
Right.
And he's going to get a max contract.
Yeah.
So now, flipping the calendar, you got the Red Wings, who haven't made the playoffs now in a couple of years, but is there a ray of hope as Stevie Y comes back?
I hope so.
Well, he did it in Tampa, because the one thing the Red Wings haven't figured out yet is the salary cap. They were really good when they could outspend teams. And when they were the Yankees of the NHL, they were really good. But
and ownership said, here's a giant bag of cash, and if you need more, call the hotline.
Yeah, but since they imposed the salary cap in the NHL, they haven't really been competitive.
That's the big fallacy about the salary cap, because people think the salary cap evens everybody up, and it doesn't. No. It's harder to work under the salary cap. You can't outspend your mistakes.
Correct. Even if you have a willing owner, you a few bad decisions and you're hamstrung for a significant period of time.
Well, and the NHL is a hard cap. I mean, not like the NBA where the salary cap and everybody can just spend whatever they want and just pay a luxury tax or whatever. The NHL is a hard cap. You can't go over that. There's a big difference between a hard cap and whatever that NBA calls their salary cap.
Supposedly a soft cap.
Well, Yeah, it's useless.
Move on. If you want to unhinge me, get me to talk about why we use the word cap associated with that. Whatever the spending guidelines is the closest you're going to get me to agree to.
Just reminds me of a comedian, a bit that they did about was raining about the evils of rock and roll and.
Well, it reminds me of Captain Jack Sparrow.
And soft rock. Have you ever gotten hit in the head by a soft rock? All right.
Pirate code. That's more of a guideline. That's the NBA salary cap.
We'll transition to the Tigers as we tape are above 500. But nobody's really expecting them to stay there.
And beating the heck out of the defending world champions.
Yeah, as everybody else is.
Yes.
Boy, that's a train wreck.
Boy, has that come unhinged in a hurry.
They've got a lot of money tied up in a lot of guys. That
I always believe they said you don't win a bid to the playoffs in April, but you can lose one. And
I think there's reasons to be optimistic in Detroit. I think they're doing a B, maybe even a B plus job in rebuilding. I don't think it's an A plus like Atlanta did when they rebuilt, or when Houston did, or the Cubs, quite frankly, either. But
had the Cubs stood pat with what they had and not tinkered with it more, I think they'd be further ahead today.
you got Casey Mize and Matt Manning, and some of these guys are going to be there sooner than later.
Yeah, I mean, Casey Mize is tearing up Lakeland. I can't imagine he's going to pitch many more games in Lakeland.
It's a waste of time.
Until he moves up to Erie.
Yeah.
And even there, I mean, he's...
Well, I think they wanted to start him there because of the weather.
Yeah, which
Mostly.
is understandable. I wouldn't want my top guy pitching in Erie or Toledo.
But Matt Manning's the one
44
that,
degrees and intermittent
And
rain.
Matt Manning's the one that doesn't get any attention. And he's got as good a stuff as anybody.
Yep.
And Faedo was a first-round pick, and Franklin Perez keeps getting hurt. If they could get him healthy, he was the centerpiece of the Verlander deal.
Yeah.
So there's guys coming.
That's a big if, though. But
it always is. The good part of that is he's not putting a lot of mileage on his arm.
That's true. He's also not learning and getting better to get to Detroit.
And then you got the Lions, which we can't really comment on it because we haven't seen what they've done on draft day yet as we tape this. So next week we can dive into that a lot better.
I'm going to go ahead without knowing the results and give you the 8-8 prediction that I believe to be accurate, which puts them right square exactly where the Pistons are. Good enough to flirt around and not good enough to matter.
Did they take a tight end?
Well, if you look at all the draft prognosticators, they took two of them. 'Cause depending on who you ask, one's got them taking one, one's got them taking the other. So why don't you take them both? Hope one works out.
But it is sad that Matthew Stafford's wife had to go through what she went through
And back in the hospital with problems and complications.
brain surgery and
12-hour surgery.
It's delicate.
Yeah, for all the fun we make of Matt's.
Nobody wants anything
awful.
like that. That's absolutely awful. All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. I want to talk a little boxing and maybe another thing or two when we come back. It's Farmer Roundtable Show presented by Ralphie's.
Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good. It's that good no matter what your taste. It's that good. Come early, stay late. Burgers and beer, a shot of cheer. Great food and fun. It's that good here. Bring yourself to Ralphie's. Yeah, it's that good.
Mortgage Marty here. It's spring buying season's right around the corner. In fact, now is the best time to get started. Gives us a little lead time. If there's things we need to tweak, we can get on it right away. Remember, those credit inquiries don't affect your score any more than they will if you check later. So one inquiry, whether it's now and then again in the spring, still only counts as one, won't hurt your score. We helped 3 customers this week improve their score by an average of 30 points. So reach out now. Let's get that started. 419-461-0667 or marty.bin, B-I-H-N, at fairwaymc.com.
It's April Anarchy as Powerbomb Wrestling is back in action in Toledo on Sunday, April the 28th at 5 p.m. at St. Clements Hall, 2990 Tremainsville Road. See Unchained Brandon Day, The Circus of Pain, Sexy Sean Casey, Malice, The Bachelor Ben Boone, Queen Emanata, and more in action. Get your advanced discount tickets right now at pbwexcitement.com. That's pbwexcitement.com. The best wrestlers in the Midwest, Sunday, April the 28th at St. Clements Hall.
All right, back we are for our Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's. Actually starting in probably shortly. Please don't leave for the next couple of minutes, but starting shortly is Robert Easter fighting on Showtime. And can we say that on the air? I guess we did. They can bleep it out if we can't. But actually fighting for the vacant WBA lightweight title. He was formerly the IBF lightweight champion, lost his belt to Mikey Garcia, who is one of the best in the biz. And it's a huge night for him because I believe this is one of the belts that Garcia surrendered when he moved up in weight class and got beat. But it's probably a fight that's going to probably go the distance. His opponent is Rances Barthélemy, who originally comes from Cuba. And by the way, he's coming into tonight 27-1 with 14 knockouts, and his loss was by decision. So, and he's actually coming back down from 140. He was a champ at 135, the lightweight division before. And it really is. It's a big fight for Easter because if he does not win this fight, then he may be off the radar when it comes to future title shots. Right. So it'll be a longer road back.
The winner of this fight has inside track to staying right there on the edge, being next man up, and
we'll have a title belt.
The loser's got to wait in line for some time and then fight their way back in.
Right. So, and you want to keep yourself in the mix, and you want to do that. Actually, the IBF champion now is Richard Comey, who Easter beat for the vacant IBF title back when he first became champion. So what goes around comes around, and who knows, maybe there's a fight with him somewhere down the road or something too, who knows. But interestingly, and that's on a pay cable network, it's not on pay-per-view. But
which is good, because I prefer that.
Well, a lot of stuff is not on pay-per-view anymore and going digital. And I actually saw, I've seen advertisements now on TV for DAZN. You see DAZN, which I thought it was DAZN until they said DAZN.
Pronounce it however you want.
But that's a digital network that's come along, and it's one of them where they're really, what they're doing is they're copying Vince McMahon's model from World Wrestling Entertainment when he came up with his own network, and it's $10 a month and blah blah blah, and the zone is the same, and it's a home to an increasing number of boxers, including Canelo Alvarez. Triple G just signed up with it too, and ESPN has gone and done the same thing with ESPN Plus, which is $4.95 a month or something. But I haven't upped the ante on either one yet.
I think the ESPN one, to me, drives me nuts, because ESPN is already the highest price channel on your cable bill. Plus, you got to have ESPN2 and ESPN News and all these other channels. So you're paying an ungodly amount to them to begin with, and now they want you to pay more to them to get more stuff, and that just drives me nuts, because I'm already paying you a crap load of money. And so is my mom, who doesn't even watch ESPN, but it has to be on her cable network. So the ESPN one drives me more bonkers than, at least DAZN, that is all they have is the digital. That's fine, I'm a WWE Network subscriber, because it makes sense, and it's the only way you can get that.
It's a work-related thing.
What
Marty's not.
No. But what drives me crazy about how all this is manifesting itself right now is there's already enough content that if you want to find it, you can find it in a zillion places. So for these to work, they're going to have to speak to an audience that, I mean, you guys are a great example because you subscribe to something that you really enjoy, that's how you get your.
Well, it makes
if there was
sense.
a boxing one that was focused on boxing and it became the primary deliverer of all the stuff you'd want to digest as a consumer, that makes sense to me. But all these other, I agree with you, ESPN. I mean, I look on there, and the stuff that's on there is not stuff I care that much about that I'd pay that for, and it's stuff that I can relatively get that somewhere else if I need to. Because I just don't see that they have much exclusive content that I care about.
Well, the reason the WWE one works is that Vince McMahon has, in essence, a monopoly on professional wrestling, in the sense that nobody's on his level. I mean, there are other smaller, promotions out there, including
Powerbomb.
Yeah. But nobody's on Vince's level. So, I mean, it isn't, if he wants somebody, he's going to get them. So, in essence, it's that then becomes the one-stop shop to go for that. There isn't that in boxing. Still, if you want to follow boxing, you have to get ESPN Plus, you have to get DAZN, you have to still have Showtime if you want to get everything. And then there's occasional pay-per-view.
And ESPN Plus is now going into UFC also. They've got a lot of UFC fights that are going to ESPN Plus, and that's the only place you can get them. And and they just added the Big 12. They've got a lot of Big 12 football, Big 12 everything is coming to ESPN Plus. They've got MAC, a lot of the MACtion, even the Tuesday night and the Wednesday night games are on ESPN Plus and not on regular ESPN.
We've gotten our pro wrestling, our Powerbomb Wrestling on Fight.tv, which is a digital platform as well. How this is going to shake out exactly, I don't know. But it is a bit of a boon for those who want to create content. How it's going to shake out for the consumer is another story, because you just can't subscribe to everything.
Well, and I mean, you're
you
already
can't do
paying
Hulu and Netflix and
you're already paying $200 a month for cable, and whatever it is, $15 for Netflix and Hulu, and $10 for WWE Network, and $5.
the only way it pays off is you sit at home and do nothing but watch TV.
Well, and so many people are cutting the cord already, which is where these kind of come into play.
Right.
Because I don't want to pay $200 for cable, but if I'm a big boxing fan, I can pay $10 a month for DAZN, and then I've still got my boxing,
Right.
and not pay for everything else. I think a lot more channels are going to go to that, but and I've said for years they should go to an a la carte cable package, but that's a whole different story.
They may be forced to at some point, but I don't know if it'll end up. We keep hoping it'll be cheaper for us, and it tends not to be.
But
anyway.
all of these contracts are written.
Wait. So you're saying the big company should care about the consumer instead of profits? Norm's been drinking tonight on our show sponsored by Ralphie's. I want to apologize in advance for anything else he says. Because sober Norm knows better.
I haven't started drinking as of yet. Although next week could be the week. Who knows? We got to run, guys. Thanks. Saturday Night Live next. Powerbomb Wrestling coming your way at 2 a.m. You can't catch it live and DVR it, or as I mentioned, Fight.tv or YouTube channel where you can catch this show if you miss it too. So we will get on out of here. Big thanks to Ralphie's as always. We'll see you next week back here. Front Row Roundtable show presented by Ralphie's.